Camille Whitfield had built an empire out of other people flinching first. At 36, she ran Whitfield Meridian, a private equity firm that bought mid-sized manufacturers, cut away whatever did not improve the next quarter, and sold what remained. She had learned early that the world divided itself into people who made the rules and people who lived inside them. She had spent 15 years forcing her way into the first category. Twice a week, after the markets closed and before her son's swim practice ended, Camille drove to Ironhide Combat Club and let the violence become honest. In the boardroom, people smiled while they gutted you. On the mat, at least, everyone agreed what was happening. She was a 2-stripe brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with enough judo to make strangers regret standing upright with her. She did not train for wellness. She trained because beneath the tailored blazers and 7-figure bonuses, she needed to believe that if the world ever came for her with its hands instead of its lawyers, she would still win. That was the woman taping her fingers on a gray Tuesday in March when a stranger walked in carrying a booster seat under one arm. Early 40s. Sandy hair tied back with a plain elastic. Faded windbreaker over a t-shirt from a hardware store that had closed years ago. A boy of 7 trailed behind her with a dump truck backpack, furious about an injustice at school. And she said we couldn't do free reading because Marcus threw a shoe, but Marcus always throws a shoe, Mom. That's not fair to the rest of us. I hear you, Bug, the woman said. Her voice was low and worn smooth. Sounds like a rough day for justice. Devin, the 19-year-old at the front desk, glanced up from his phone. Hey, Nora. Theo's group is in the small room today. Coach said you can wait in the lobby or use open mat. Open mat's fine. Nora knelt to set down the booster seat and winced when her weight reached her left knee. Same rule, she told Theo. If your shoelace comes loose during tumbling, stop and fix it. I know, Mom. I know you know. I'm saying it anyway. Theo disappeared through the kids' room door. Nora straightened and surveyed the gym. Her eyes did not go to the mirrors or the people sparring. They went to the front doors, the fire exit beside the locker rooms, and the narrow gap behind the heavy bag rack. The check took 2 seconds. It did not look anxious. It looked automatic. Then she sat against the padded wall, where she could see both doors, and closed her eyes. Camille's usual partner had cancelled that morning. Camille had spent the day firing a division head over video and had a headache lodged behind her left eye. She needed the mat. As far as she was concerned, the mat was being occupied by a sleeping soccer mom. She crossed the room. You're in my spot. Nora opened one pale gray eye. It did not startle or apologize. It simply took Camille in. Didn't realize the floor had assigned seating. She rose anyway, favoring the bad knee. The easy retreat bothered Camille more than resistance would have. People either deferred to her or challenged her. Nora did neither. She stepped around Camille as if she were a low branch on a trail. You here to train, Camille said, loud enough for the room, or just take up space? Nora stopped. I'm waiting on my kid. Open mats for people who train. The smoothie bar has benches. Okay. Nora turned toward the lobby. Being dismissed by someone she had already dismissed landed in Camille like a slap. Devin. 5 minutes on the clock. Nora's shoulders lowered, not with fear, but with the fatigue of someone handed an unnecessary chore. Light roll, Camille said. Unless you're worried about losing in front of everybody. 2 people in the center of the mat stopped to watch. Nora looked at them, then toward the door Theo had gone through. 5 minutes, she said. That's all. Camille smiled the way she did before terminating someone. Nora stepped onto the mat without stretching. She stood with her hands loose and her weight balanced, neither inviting contact nor preparing to flee. Camille felt the warning rise along the back of her neck and ignored it. The buzzer sounded. Camille took a high collar grip, controlled the sleeve, and stepped across for an ogashi. She expected Nora's balance to break over her hip. It did not. Nora shifted less than an inch. Camille's entry lost its structure, and the throw dissolved beneath her. Camille recovered before the failure could become visible. She sat to guard, pulling Nora forward with the collar and locking her legs around Nora's waist. Untrained people panicked inside closed guard. They shoved, lifted their elbows, and donated an arm. Nora knelt with her elbows close and her spine aligned. There were no gaps to exploit. She was not looking at Camille's face. She was watching the line of Camille's hips. "You going to do anything?" Camille asked, tugging the collar to break her posture. "You asked for a light roll. I'm giving you one." "No," Nora said. "You're trying to win one." The mat squeaked beneath them. Camille felt anger rise where certainty had been. She climbed her guard higher, attacked Nora's left arm, and began threading a kimura grip. Before Camille could lock her hands, Nora pinned her own elbow to her ribs, shifted her knee, and rolled with the angle. The grip slipped. Nora cleared Camille's legs and settled into side control. The transition was not fast. That was what frightened Camille. Nora moved as if she had already seen every space Camille might create and was waiting for her to choose one. Camille framed across Nora's throat and bridged. Nora yielded just enough, followed the motion, and returned heavier. Her shoulder turned Camille's jaw away. Her hip blocked Camille's knee from recovering guard. Camille knew every part of the position. She also knew she was not getting out. "Fight back," she said. Nora met her eyes for the first time since the buzzer. "You don't want that." She changed grips. Camille's near arm folded behind her back, controlled but not torqued. Nora flattened her hips and settled her weight across the bottom of Camille's ribs. Air came, but not enough of it. Camille bucked, framed, turned, and found each escape closed before she reached it. Panic stripped the technique from her. Her heels scraped the mat. Nora waited. The buzzer sounded. The pressure vanished. Nora sat back, took one measured breath, and rubbed her left knee before standing. She offered Camille a hand. Camille stared past it at the fluorescent lights. "Good roll," Nora said. The kids' room door opened. Theo burst through holding a paper certificate with a cartoon shark on it. "Mom, I got Shark of the Day." Nora's face warmed. She crouched carefully, gave the certificate her full attention, and took his hand. "Course you did, Bug." "Ice cream?" "Ice cream." They left together. Nora did not look back. Priya, a blue belt who had stopped her own roll to watch, sat on her heels near Camille. "She never chased the submission," Priya said. Camille pushed herself upright. "What does that mean?" "It means she wasn't trying to beat you. She was making sure you couldn't make her hurt you." Priya returned to her partner. Camille stayed on the mat until the room stopped tilting. In the locker room, she found a purple crescent beneath her jaw where Nora's shoulder had turned her head. It was the only mark the roll had left. Camille pressed it with 2 fingers and watched herself in the mirror. Her first instinct was to catalog excuses. Nora was heavier than she looked. Camille had entered without warming up. The failed throw had put her in a bad sequence. Her headache had slowed her reactions. She had heard variations of the same excuses from executives after lost negotiations, each offered as evidence that the outcome had not revealed anything real. She showered, dressed, and checked the time. Her son had 20 minutes left at swim practice. Usually she spent those minutes answering messages in the back of the car while her driver waited outside the aquatic center. That evening, she went inside. Elliot was 12 and had recently reached the age when affection became something to conceal from teammates. Camille sat high in the bleachers and watched him miss a turn, correct himself, and try again. He did not know she was there until practice ended. "Mom?" The surprise in his face hurt more than the bruise under her jaw. "Your meeting get cancelled?" he asked. "No. I finished early." It was a small lie. She had not finished anything. She had simply stopped. Elliot adjusted the strap of his wet duffel. "Did you see the last relay? I saw you make up half a length." His attempt not to look pleased failed. On the drive home, he explained why his coach was changing the relay order. Camille put her phone face down between them and listened. For most of the conversation, she succeeded. 2 days later, Marcus Hale placed a thin folder on Camille's desk. Marcus was a former ATF investigator who ran corporate intelligence for Whitfield Meridian. His job was to find undisclosed lawsuits, hidden ownership, regulatory exposure, and the kinds of personal conflicts that could kill a deal. He was not paid to satisfy curiosity, and his expression made clear that Camille had asked him to cross a line. "That's it," she said. "That's everything I could obtain legally." The folder contained a business registration for Castellan Structural Services, 2 expired welding certifications, a contractor listing for tower and turbine inspections, and an address connected to a rented duplex. No social media. No property. No litigation. No professional biography. She's a technician. She's a contractor who works at height with a rebuilt knee. Beyond that, I don't know. Camille looked up. "What about military service?" Marcus remained standing. "A public record index confirms Navy service. Enlisted at 19. Recruit training at Great Lakes. After that, the public trail becomes inconsistent, school dates without school names, administrative entries that don't identify assignments. Her separation document is not public, and neither you nor I have a lawful reason to request it." "You called someone." "I called a retired contact and asked whether he recognized one of the abbreviations attached to an old training roster. He told me he didn't. Then he told me not to ask him again." "That's all he said?" "That's all a careful person would say." Camille opened the folder again, annoyed by how little it gave her. "She told me nothing." "Maybe that's because it's none of your business." Camille's eyes lifted. Marcus had disagreed with her before. He had never done it without wrapping the disagreement in 6 layers of professional language. "You asked me to investigate a private citizen because she embarrassed you at a gym," he said. "I ran open source checks because you framed it as a potential security concern. It isn't one. She hasn't threatened you, contacted you, or approached your family. Whatever happened on that mat, you went toward her. She didn't come toward you." Camille looked down at the sparse pages. "Professional advice?" she asked. "Close the folder." Camille tapped one page with a fingernail. "If this had been part of an acquisition, would you have stopped here? If she were a principal in a transaction, I would ask her to authorize a background check. If she declined, you could decide whether the deal proceeded. Context creates the permissible purpose. Personal embarrassment doesn't." "And the address?" "Business registration. Public. That doesn't make showing up there a good idea." "You think I'm afraid of her. I think you want the file to turn what happened into a problem you know how to solve." Camille closed the folder. "And what problem was it?" Marcus considered her with the caution of a man deciding how much honesty his employer could tolerate. "You met someone you couldn't rank beneath you. When Marcus left, Camille stood at the windows of her 40th floor office and watched Lakeshore Drive crawl beneath her. She had expected the file to restore the scale of the world. Names, dates, credentials, some clean explanation for why she had lost. Instead, it gave her less than Nora already had: a bad knee, a rented home, a dangerous job, a son who liked sharks. Camille thought about the moment Nora had released her. No celebration. No warning. One breath, a hand offered, and then complete attention for a child's paper certificate. She thought about the division head she had fired that Tuesday without once meeting his eyes. The 200 employees at a company she had liquidated 18 months ago. People converted into rows on a model because numbers did not ask her to consider what happened after she won. The acquisition scheduled to close the following week was a family-owned parts supplier outside Rockford. 41 employees. The investment committee had approved an asset strip that would return the highest margin. Camille opened the operating memo. For the first time, she read past the summary page. The plant manager had been there 23 years. The youngest machinist was an apprentice whose father worked the same line. 12 employees carried the company's health plan for dependents with chronic conditions. None of that information appeared in the valuation model because nobody had asked it to. Camille called the associate leading the deal. "Run a second case," she said. "Keep the plant operating for 18 months. Retention agreements for the floor staff. No reduction in medical coverage during the hold." There was a pause. "That costs us almost 2 points of margin." "I know." The committee approved the strip. "Then I'll take it back to the committee." "Why?" Camille looked at the thin folder. "Because we didn't finish the diligence." "The committee meets Thursday," the associate said. "We'd need an operating case, labor assumptions, capex for the old line, customer retention, then start with the plant." "I'm going tomorrow." The silence this time was longer. "You're going to Rockford?" Camille understood the question beneath the question. She had approved 9 manufacturing acquisitions in 5 years and had visited 2 plants, both after closing, both for photographs. "Book the visit," she said. The factory smelled of cutting fluid, hot metal, and the bitter coffee kept in a scorched pot beside the time clock. Its owner, Daniel Voss, met Camille wearing safety glasses and a navy work shirt with his name stitched above the pocket. He had expected the visit to be ceremonial. Camille could tell from the prepared route: conference room, clean assembly area, new inspection machine, exit. "Show me the line we'd shut down," she said. Voss stopped walking. "Your team already has the equipment list." "I didn't ask to see the equipment." The old line occupied the back third of the building. Its machines had been repaired so many times that their original paint survived only in sheltered patches. Voss introduced the shift supervisor, then a machinist named Elena who could identify a worn bearing by sound. He showed Camille an order board filled 6 months ahead and a wall of photographs from retirement lunches, softball games, weddings, and one funeral. None of it changed the arithmetic. That was what unsettled her. The arithmetic remained correct and incomplete at the same time. At the end of the line, an apprentice in a face shield was measuring a finished part. His first reading was wrong. Elena did not take the instrument from him. She asked him to clean the contact points and measure again. The second reading passed. "How long until he can run the station alone?" Camille asked. "A year if he's good," Elena said. 2 before I'd trust him with the aerospace work." The model on Camille's laptop valued the apprentice at his hourly wage and Elena at the severance required to dismiss her. It assigned no value to the 2 years between them. On the drive back, Camille rewrote the questions for the operating case herself. She closed it and locked it in her desk, The next afternoon, Camille drove herself to the recreation field behind Eastbrook Elementary. The address had come from Nora's public business registration. Camille knew that did not make using it right. She almost turned around twice. The field had chain-link backstops, rusted bleachers, and a playground repaired with parts that did not match. A cold wind moved off the reservoir. Nora knelt beside the slide in canvas work pants and an old flannel jacket, replacing a corroded bolt with a cordless drill. Theo sat on a bench arranging acorns into disciplined rows. Camille stopped 10 feet away. Nora finished tightening the bolt before she looked up. "Jim's across town, Ms. Whitfield." "I know." Nora stood, using the slide rail to take weight off her left knee. Her eyes passed over the parking lot and returned to Camille. "You want a rematch?" "No." The answer came so quickly that Nora almost smiled. Camille removed her hands from her coat pockets. "I had my security director look into you." The almost smile disappeared. "I know someone called about an old roster," Nora said. "People I haven't heard from in years suddenly get polite when my name comes up." "He didn't find much." "That should have been your answer." "It was." "Eventually." Nora checked on Theo. He was still occupied with the acorns. "Why are you here?" Camille had rehearsed 3 versions in the car. Each sounded like something prepared by counsel. "I wanted to know why you didn't stop me sooner." "I did stop you. You let me attack you for almost 5 minutes. You were in a room with rules, witnesses, and a clock. You weren't dangerous. You were angry. Those aren't the same thing. You embarrassed me." Nora leaned against the slide platform, easing her knee. "You challenged a stranger in front of an audience and lost." "I didn't bring the audience." The wind pushed a strand of hair across Camille's face. She tucked it back and forced herself not to reach for an argument. "Priya said you were making sure I couldn't make you hurt me." "Priya pays attention." "Where did you learn to do that?" Nora looked toward the reservoir. "Some of it in schools. Most of it after." "After what?" "After the schools." The boundary was quiet and absolute. Camille nodded. "Marcus thinks your knee was injured in the service." "Marcus guesses for a living." "Was he wrong?" Nora's expression told her she had crossed the line again. "Yes," Camille said before Nora could answer. "That is also none of my business." For a moment, only the drill battery cooling on the wood chips made a faint ticking sound. "I don't train to prove I can hurt people," Nora said. "I already know how easy that is." Her hand rested briefly on her left knee. "Violence is what remains after the useful choices are gone. In a gym, the useful choices are everywhere. You tap. You stop. You go home. Nobody has to carry the last 5 seconds for the rest of their life." Camille waited. Nora looked at Theo. "I go to Ironhide because for 1 hour nobody needs me to fix a tower, sign a form, remember an appointment, or find a missing shoe. I sit against the wall and listen to other people work. You walked into that hour and needed me to make you feel powerful. And you did." "No. I let you discover how badly you needed it." The answer hurt because it was precise. "I changed a deal yesterday," Camille said. Nora's brow tightened. "What deal?" "A factory. We were going to close it. Now we may not." "Because I held you down on a mat?" "Because you didn't have to hurt me." Nora studied her for a long moment. "Don't turn me into the story you tell yourself about becoming a better person," she said. "You don't know me." "I know. And don't spend money once and call it change." "I know that too." Nora's face softened by a degree. "Good," she said. Most people don't. Camille looked at the half-repaired slide. Why do you do this yourself? The school put it on a maintenance list. The list is longer than the budget. You could ask for help. I did. They gave me the approved hardware specifications and permission to volunteer. That's not what I meant. Nora's attention sharpened. No, Camille said. I'm not offering to fix your life. I was asking why you're working on a knee you can barely kneel on. Nora looked down at the drill. Because asking is harder than doing. It was the first answer she had given that did not sound settled. That seems inefficient, Camille said. Nora let out a short breath that might have been a laugh. Now you sound like yourself. I'm trying to determine whether that's always a bad thing. Probably not. Do you have help with Theo? The question was too personal, but Nora answered after a moment. My sister takes him when I'm on a tower. A neighbor handles school pickup if the weather delays me. I have people. I'm just not good at needing them. Camille thought of Elliot asking whether a meeting had been cancelled because his mother appeared in the bleachers. Neither am I, she said. Nora studied her, perhaps deciding whether the admission was genuine. People like us get very good at being useful, Nora said. It gives us a reason not to notice when we don't know how to be anything else. Camille did not ask who Nora meant by people like us. For once, being included did not feel like winning. Theo came running across the wet grass, holding a maple leaf above his head. Mom, look. It's not crunchy yet. Can we press it in the big dictionary? Nora crouched carefully. We can absolutely press it in the big dictionary. She examined the leaf as if nothing else in the field deserved her attention. Theo noticed Camille. Who's that? Nora glanced up. This is Ms. Whitfield. We know each other from the gym. Are you good at fighting? Camille looked at Nora, then back at Theo. Not as good as I thought. Theo accepted this with the seriousness of a credential review. Mom's teaching me not to burn toast. It's harder than it sounds, Nora said. I believe that. Go put the leaf with the acorns, Bug. We've got 20 minutes of light. Theo ran back toward the bench. Camille felt the apology waiting behind her teeth. Her professional life had taught her that apologies were admissions to be narrowed, delayed, and negotiated. She let this one be none of those things. I'm sorry, she said. For the gym. For investigating you. For coming here without being invited. Nora did not rescue her from the silence that followed. Then she nodded once. Keep your left elbow tight when you pass, she said. You leave the arm behind every time. Somebody's going to take it, and it won't always be me being polite. A laugh escaped Camille before she could stop it. I'll work on it. Do that. Camille started toward the parking lot. Ms. Whitfield. She turned. Camille, she said. Nora considered the correction. Take care of yourself, Camille. You too, Nora. Camille returned to the 40th floor the next morning. She presented the revised Rockford plan to the investment committee. One partner called it sentimental. Another asked whether she intended to donate the firm's capital to every employee with a sad biography. Camille did not tell them about Nora. She did not turn a private humiliation into a leadership parable. She showed them the cost of turnover, the replacement time for skilled machinists, the fragility of the supplier contracts, and the value of keeping the plant intact through the hold. The revised case passed by 1 vote. It made less money than the strip would have made. Camille signed it anyway. The change did not transform her office overnight. The following Monday, she interrupted an associate twice during a presentation and watched him abandon the point he had been trying to make. She nearly let the meeting continue. Then she heard herself telling Nora that she had changed a deal, as if one revised spreadsheet had settled the matter. "Go back," Camille said. The associate looked alarmed. "To which slide?" "The point I cut off." "Finish it." He did. His recommendation saved the firm from assuming a warranty exposure nobody else in the room had noticed. Camille thanked him in front of the team. It felt less natural than defending the Rockford plan before the committee. That evening, she arrived at Elliot's meet before the first race. She answered one call in the hallway, declined 3 others, and remained in the bleachers when her phone vibrated against her palm. Change, she discovered, was not a door a person walked through. It was a series of small, inconvenient choices, most of them witnessed by nobody who knew how difficult they were. 3 weeks later, an envelope arrived at Nora's rented duplex. Inside was a check made out to the Eastbrook Elementary PTA, enough to replace every corroded fastener on the playground and rebuild the section beneath the slide. There was no note. Only a Whitfield Meridian business card with a private cell number written on the back. Nora sat at her kitchen table after Theo had gone to bed and turned the card over twice. She disliked grand gestures. They were often what people offered when they wanted to skip the slower work of becoming different. But the check was made out to the PTA, not to her. The playground needed the work. And Camille had left the decision in Nora's hands instead of arriving to make it for her. Nora placed the check beside the kettle so she would remember to bring it to the school office in the morning. She did not call the number. She did not throw the card away, either. She put it in the drawer where she kept Theo's shark certificates, beneath a folded program from a funeral she attended 18 months after coming home. Some things were not forgiveness. Some things were simply evidence that a person had begun,